welcome you all to this roundtable, national roundtable on the CARICOM Commission Report on marijuana, originally published in 2018. The reason for this is very simple. We, as part of the non-state actors and the Conference of Churches of Grenada, recognize that groups such as ours have a responsibility to take part in the shaping of public opinion. And when the government called indirectly some weeks ago for discussions on these matters, we saw it as an excellent opportunity to try to push things forward. Because on such an important matter as this, every voice must be heard and every viewpoint respected, even as we seek to determine what is in the best interest of all Grenada. And now I want to introduce to you the chairman of the Conference of Churches Grenada, Reverend Silbert Prescott.
In our response to the CARICOM report on marijuana, we have already been looking at a response in terms of health, children, youth, social and other considerations, and we are going to Decriminalisation, Legislation, Law and Human Rights panel. As we have done before, my task this evening is simply to introduce the moderator for the panel, who will in turn introduce our panelists. Our moderator for this evening's Decriminalisation, Legalisation, Law and Human Rights panel is Justice Rita Joseph Olvetti.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will go straight into our discussion by introducing our panelists. So it is my pleasure to introduce this first speaker, who is Mr. Ritchie Maitland.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Justice Olvetti. Before I discuss the specific human rights issues related to decriminalization of marijuana, I wanted to just provide some context of the actual report which was presented today and the commission. It's important to know that this commission was comprised of a very large number of experts in the fields. Professor Belantoine, who's the Dean of Law, who has a doctorate from Oxford, social policy analysts, law enforcement, including police, mental health professionals, pharmacologists, criminologists, and the average person through town hall meetings. Among other things, the report indicates that it recommends the decriminalization. They've put together a number of different scenarios, a number of different things that can happen in response to what they've been finding, and they've recommended what they think would be best for particular countries in the Caribbean context, being decriminalization. They've actually been quite specific in what they think needs to be done. So I've been hearing undertones of this argument that, well, there's so much thought that has to be gone into it and so much to be done. It's an extended process. While I appreciate that, I think a lot of the legwork has, in fact, already been done in that regard. Actually, it's probably important to know that, as far as I am aware, in the Caribbean, Grenada is the very last country, the only country that has not either passed legislation concerning decriminalization or made a specific political commitment to doing something. Everyone around us has. Barbados quite recently has committed to decriminalizing by next year. Dominica and St. Vincent have both passed legislation. Antigua, St. Kitts did it through the courts, where a Rastaman took their version of the Drug Misuse Act to court and was successful, which I plan to address later on. So Grenada is the very last. So as much as I appreciate that there are stakeholders involved who need to be a part of this process, I think it is also important, especially if we're thinking about the economics of it, to get on with it, because the longer we wait is the more we lose any competitive advantage that we might have. One of the things the report indicates is that there is actually majority support for decriminalization in Grenada. 2018 survey, according to the report, says 61% of the Grenadian population wanted to remove prohibition as it is, with only 22% wanting things to remain as it were. Now, one of the things that shocked me about the report was the fact that the law enforcement, the police, because the police throughout the region, police forces, commissioners, etc., also interviewed for this process. And they actually have overwhelming support for decriminalization of marijuana. Among other things, they indicate the amount of time it takes up relative to what is achieved. Right, they were also making the point that there's essentially no correlation between marijuana and violent crime in that sense. And in fact, looking at things globally speaking, when one speaks about violence and gang violence in the context of drugs, it's the illegality which drives that violence. If we're talking about mangoes being sold and we have a contract for me to buy 10 pounds from you and you take my 10 pounds and don't pay me, I can take you to court. But oftentimes, especially in contexts where it is absolutely illegal, the only resort is for people to take things into their own hands, which drives the criminality. So the report found that according to the police themselves, there wasn't really any correlation between marijuana and crime, particularly violent crime. Now, another thing that the police indicated, which I found was quite interesting, is that poor communities tend to suffer more in terms of law enforcement. It's not particularly that poor people use more drugs or use more marijuana. It's just that police, for historical reasons, which we might all understand, are much more likely to run up on a block as opposed to run up in Lansapine, as we might say. And they recognize that that is an issue and that it might be unfair because it's sort of over-policing already underprivileged people. The report looked at, among other things, incarcerations and the effect of incarcerations, because that's another thing. One's financial status affects what happens. Oftentimes, a person might be fined for a marijuana-related offense, but because they're poor, they can't afford to pay it, and they get incarcerated. Whereas, had they been a well-to-do person, they would not have gone to jail. Now, they actually looked at some of the statistics, I believe, in St. Vincent of the Grenadines, where they found that 75% of the total sentenced prisoner population had been given the option of a fine, but had been imprisoned because they could not pay them. So that's also an issue. We also have the sociological aspect of it, where we have a particular demographic of our society, that is, poorer people being more negatively affected by a law which is supposed to be neutral. And yes, on paper, it might seem neutral, but the police themselves have accepted that in its enforcement, poor people tend to suffer more, which I think is quite an important reason to decriminalize. As I indicated, Grenada has been the very last country. Most of the other countries have gone the route of legislation. St. Kitts is unique because what had actually happened was there was a Rasta man, his name is Ras Nang Mrs, and he was charged under the Drug Act with possession and cultivation. And he decided to challenge the law, which we also can do under our Grenadian constitution. His argument was that the law violated his religious rights as a Rastafarian, and the state brought a whole heap of counter arguments as to why they thought the law was necessary, including the protection of children, etc., etc. But ultimately, the court actually ruled for Ras Nang, and they gave the government a number of days within which to fix the legislation. They found that it was overbroad, and in coming to their decision, they looked at a lot of scientific evidence, and they found that exceptions could be made in the law for adult Rastafarians for religious use. And they essentially gave the country so that their parliament could enact laws which reflect that reality. So as I end on that point, and I'm not sure if we open it for questions now, I just wanted to remind persons that whereas it is important to be very careful on taking on something or making changes which are bound to have significant effects for society, it is also important to know that we can't drag on this process forever, and that Grenada is last among its neighbors, and that there is already precedent set, there are already laws that can be drawn upon and tweaked to be given effect in Grenada. It's not as difficult a process as many people would make it seem, is how it would end. So thank you very much.
Then our former Commissioner of Police, Mr. James Clarkson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Good afternoon to everybody. I have been thinking about this afternoon's presentation, and two words stuck out to me. I was thinking, what do I do and what do I say? Maybe some of what I'm about to say, you have heard it already during the day. And the two words are criminalize, legalize. Where do we go from here? I cannot claim to have the good fortune of having all the answers. I have been reflecting on the many lives that have been lost, the many lives that have been incarcerated. Perhaps our hearts are becoming softer towards those young men that got caught up in the justice system. That's what I felt the last couple of days. And thinking how to break the cycle in finding a roadway into a better world for this generation and the generation to come. In order to understand where we are, where we need to go, we should have an understanding of where we come from. The many changes that took place, the different narratives, all in the name of criminalization and legalization. As I said, if we want to walk properly, we must remember the time when we couldn't creep at all. Then we'll appreciate the steps that we're making. During 1995 and 1996, intense pressure, intense law enforcement pressure was focused on the destruction of marijuana. This intense enforcement was spearheaded by the DEA of America, utilizing the forces of our islands, including the RSS, namely, basically, to prevent drugs from reaching the landmass of the United States. Operations were done locally, regionally, and internationally. Locally, lots of manpower were utilized with minimal return, most times with the confiscation of a few trees and the arrest of one or two individuals. Regionally, the RSS mirrored our operation, but at a larger scale. Internationally, the law enforcement of the USA exerted tremendous pressure on the Cali leadership using the brave men and women of the Colombian National Police. As a result, all the top drug trafficking leaders from Cali were either jailed or killed. In combination or parallel to that operation, the law enforcement agencies were effectively attacking Colombian cells operating within the United States. This type of enforcement did not break the back of the drug trafficking, it only emboldened them. As a matter of fact, an alliance was formed between the Colombian traffickers and the Mexican traffickers. In September 1999, the DA announced the conclusion of a two-year investigation resulting in 36 seizures, netting 12,434 kilograms of cocaine, a half a kilo of heroin, 4,806 pounds of marijuana, more than 19 million US dollars, US currency, and the arrest of over 106 personnel. After this period of heavy enforcement, the operation also includes, at that time, the arrest of a head of state in Panama. As we considered what next to do within our small island states, let's not forget, we must be aware of the nature of the change that took place in some states of the US and how it affected us as a nation when it comes to our involvement in drugs enforcement. Due to the legalization of marijuana for one reason or the other, factories were open, drug shops were given license to operate. Our law enforcement within the island started looking inwardly because our jobs at the time was to stop the drugs going to the States. So what started to happen is that quite a bit of the drugs that were passing through the islands remained inland. And that sort of posed a problem to the law enforcement agency. There are no easy or single answer to the question of legalizing drugs, legalizing cannabis. There are pros and cons. The issue can raise strong opinion on both sides of the debate. There's a school of thought that drugs can have an extremely negative effect on both individuals, users, and society. Others say that addiction can be very destructive to the physical and mental and well-being of the user and can lead to problematic behavior. However, most of the focus is whether criminalizing drug use, is the most effective way of dealing with the problem, if there was ever a problem. We must look at both sides of the equation. We must look at all the angles, the policy, the laws, enforcement. Some people say that to legalize, but draw a distinction between the kinds of drugs. That would help break the grip on criminal gangs and protect young people. Criminalizing drugs offer a better chance of avoiding or overcoming addiction. Regulate through legalize. As it is now, drug pushers have become very rich. The drugs have become $1 million business. As a matter of fact, some of the most sought after individuals in the drug world were billionaires. And one of the individuals, when they mounted an operation against him, he decided to make a deal. His deal was that, okay, I'll come in, but I will have to build my own jail. And that was accepted. So he built his jail with all the fancy things he had on the outside. He had his parties and he had everything, but as with everything else, he got kind of complacent and decided he wanted to go back out. So what he did, he broke his own jail, which was an easy thing for him because instead of employing his army on the outside, he had the army of the state protecting him. But he went out. So when he broke jail, as in any country, if you break jail, they come to look for you. They went to look for him, they caught him, and he was killed. We ask ourselves, what is the benefit to society? Because when I look at some of the tactical situations with the enforcement, a lot of the people on the smoking cannabis smoke in front of the law enforcement officers. They have no problem because the saying is that some of the same law enforcement officers smoke the weed as usual. And the funny thing about that is that a lot of them came out from the block. So they're going back on the block. They know everybody on the block. Everybody knows them. So, however, the question of legalizing drugs brings with it a certain amount of taxation because it's a business. If you have a business, you will have taxes. Depending on the taxation, what we call the black market will shoot up. Right? Because if you could break the government tax and sell cheaper and sell more, you make more money. Drug tourism could become a problem. However, with all of this, we must not forget, for those of us who are old enough, we must not forget our custom, our culture. As a young man growing up in Grenada, going to a doctor was always a distance away. We had a building in the community which in those days was known as the drug shop. Today it's the pharmacy, which was hardly ever used anyways. Because for every sickness, my grandmother had some bush she could have gone into the garden and pick and fix you up, regardless of what sickness you have. I could remember my cousin got a big cut with a cutlass. She didn't send him to the hospital. She get a leaf, band his foot, and within a couple of days, he was good to go again. My grandmother even had bush for when she was baking. Those days she baked in a mud oven, right? She heat it up, then put in the thing to bake the bread. And she get the bush and cover it. I can tell you, the lines from the kids in the village to taste my grandmother's bread used to be long. For some reason, maybe the bush had some super thing in it. You know, maybe it was a forerunner to marijuana, I don't know. But the line used to be long and nobody used to complain. They come back the next time. Now think about all the changes that took place within the drug environment. Think about the resources that had to be used to stop a few drugs on the block. Just to stop drugs from going to mainland USA. And with all of this, because they make that many changes in the states, the islands had to adjust. Enforcing laws, if not done properly, has its problems. Not just making a popular statement, like I heard a leader a few weeks ago saying to the police officers then that if you find a man with a spliff, leave him. But it's not that easy because those things are on the law. It's there. You know, you have to make the necessary amendment to get it off the law, to make it a safe environment. Otherwise, the issue of law enforcement becomes problematic. Because enforcement is led by intelligence. So what do? I might see my cousin with a spliff and I leave him, but I see another individual who is not my cousin and I arrest him. So it becomes problematic. Issues must be identified and dealt with. How we make the country safe is another problem. It takes to another level. Because traffic crimes will step up. Roadside tests are available for DUI, that's driving under the influence. The same is not available to test ingredients in cannabis. Now the force will have to employ what they call recognition experts who are specifically trained to deal with this sort of problem. As drug crimes are not reported, other related crimes have to be looked at. The possibility of property crimes could start going up. Violent crimes could increase because of turf wars. The safety of the community, the villages have to be taken into consideration. More monies from the sale of drugs will be held at home. Home invasions could become a problem. Money laundering could be a headache for the economy. And if we are paying attention to our sister isle in the south some months ago, we'd have heard of a case where over $25 million was found in a house of an individual. They call it susu. So these are some of the things that is going to move with as others thing. So it changed the focus and placed the amount of manpower that's involved in spearheading operation on drugs into other types of operation, which is a welcome thing. Now, I would say, in conclusion, that future drug policies must be smarter and more effective in curbing the demands for illegal drugs. It's not something that we could run away from. It is here with us. It is here to stay. It's been here for a very long time. Smarter drug prevention policies should start by reducing drug use among the youths so they would not become future offenders. We must also realize the possibilities that marijuana for medical or general use could increase rather than reduce the addiction, the youths, among the youths and adults. Those are some of the things we should be mindful of to take us from where we are to where we want to go. We must analyze the issues and make the correct decisions. Thank you very much.
And it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce a member of the Rastafarian community. His name is Ras Nang.
Give thanks. Again, one love. My name is Prince Nanan. I am a Nyabingi priest, and an elder, and a patriarch of the ancient order of Melchizedek. I give thanks to the honorable sister that invited her here. And I give thanks to all the people that are here, those who give contribution, those who give special speeches. It's a joy to be here and a great opportunity to represent the Rastafarian community. So I say, one perfect love. The ancient order of the Nyabingi is a specific Rastafari movement. And for many years, I was taught by the ancients that ganja is the healing of the nation, which is called marijuana. In our tabernacle, I use the holy herb as a sacrament. In the true sense, it is a burnt offering. Whenever I exalt in Emperor Haile Selassie, our King Creator, we use this herb for specific reasons. For greater interception with our King, for healing cure, for communication with our ancestors, and as a medicine. And I give thanks to Sister Sandra this hour and to all the delegates again, because Rasta hardly get any time or opportunity to defend a cause or to sit up in any council and reason on things pertaining to their affairs, and especially ganja. For many years, Rasta has been persecuted for smoking herb. Rasta have been brutalized and marginalized and been through a lot of hell for marijuana. I give thanks to know that I man live to see the day when our people become conscious and our government and our loved ones come to the understanding that marijuana have some good benefits in it. First of all, in 1920, Henry Ford took marijuana and made the body of a car. In this time, in 2021, marijuana making more than 5,600 different products. Marijuana make paint, it make textile, it make varnish, it make plaster Paris, it make rope, it make sails for the yacht, it make food, flour, oil, cheese, butter, and many other different products that us around here will be dreaming about. It is a special plant, and those who experience using it know how special it is. Because some people never smoke marijuana, they never eat marijuana, They never drink marijuana. So they don't have the experience as the Rastafarian people and other non-Rastas who use it. Because not only Rastas that use marijuana. Many people use marijuana. Russia and France went to war over marijuana. When France lost the war at the Battle of Waterloo, they fought over marijuana. Japan invaded China, Manchuria, over marijuana. So marijuana is a very important plant. It is the holy herb. It is a sweet cane. It is the healing of the nation in Revelation. It is the food that the Almighty Creator gave to us. He said, unto the cattle I will give grass, but unto the I and them I will give herbs, and herbs shall be your meat. Chicken and beef is not your meat. Your meat is herbs, pumpkin and callaloo and pepper and all these different things. Rastafari give the people a new way of life. Rastafari is such a wonderful affair, such a beautiful moment, and such a beautiful time. And especially when you burn good herb. Good herb, good herb. Right now, in the Caribbean, there is a great distress. Because you could get cocaine to buy in every little corner, and it's very hard to get marijuana to buy, even in Grenada, especially good herb. And cocaine is something that is imported from South America. And marijuana is a plant that could grow here. And when marijuana is legal in Grenada, everyone will make money. Better schools will be building, better roads, better hospital. This is the thing we need. We don't need marijuana just to smoke. We need marijuana to take the people out of poverty, to take the people out of suffering. What's the state of our economy? What's the state of our people? We need marijuana to be legal right now. And we need the government to establish a moratorium immediately. In the true sense, stop lock up people for ganja until these sessions are accomplished, until everything is fulfilled, come to a complete cycle. The Rastas forgive all them who persecute us. Hundreds of Rastas die. We have no grudge against no one. Millions of Rastas die over marijuana. Our farm, our children went astray, our animals, our herbs, our food. We've been in prison, we've been through death and hell, blood and all manner of detrimental regions where devils and demons speak. We come through all them regions, blood and sweat and tears. But we have no grudge against no one. We never carry hatred. Because when one smoke herb, you become an angel, angelical feelings. There is no evil in you. Marijuana is to heal you, heal the nation, not only from physical sickness, but from mental problem and people that are possessed with devils and demons. When you smoke ganja, you cast out these things. The best bread to eat is a ganja bread, the best cake, and the fudge so sweet and special, the juice, the wine, everything in ganja is special. We're going to make rope here in Grenada. We have the Chinese here. They know about it for thousands of years. They've been taking marijuana and make paper. We need a paper factory here. There is no factory in Grenada. We need to take the ganja seed and export it. That is a business already. We need to take the ganja and make oil. That is a business here already. Not only oil to anoint people, but oil to eat. and drink. We need men who cannot sex life or dying out. They need to eat some of the good ganja seeds. Because when you have a bud and you want that bud to sing, you give it ganja seed. And if the rat come at your home, the rat wouldn't eat nothing else but all the ganja seed. It wouldn't even eat the ganja, but it will eat the seed for sure. Give thanks again for the honorable ones that are present, and for those who make the contribution, and for our ancestors, those who went before us, the Rases and them who suffer and was persecuted for herbs. We give thanks this hour that people's eyes are opening up and that our vision is coming to a full fulfillment. Grenada is a beautiful country, beautiful land. It is a ganja plantation. Grenada is a ganja plantation because we have sunlight 365 days a year. The people need the crystals in the ganja. The other country exporting ganja to Grenada too, you know, because Grenada importing ganja from foreign. The ganja they have different names for them, but Grenada importing ganja. And enough of foreign exchange going out. And Grenada need to produce our own ganja and save some of that foreign exchange, save some of that money. Once I had a good tourist friend. A little time I find I didn't see she in Grenada. 3-4 years I didn't see she come around. But the time I met she, when she returned, I said, girl, long time I didn't see her. Why is that? You're done with us wrong here? She said, no, let me show the eye that. The place I live in right now, ganja is legalized. That is why I'm not coming to Grenada anymore. Because I've been getting too much police harassment over ganja. And the place I live in now, I could go and buy an ounce of ganja and I could smoke freely. So Grenada losing a lot of money in that way. When I go to Jamaica and I see so many people on the airport, I say, wow, people like ants. I Ras someone pull I across, he say, Ras, all these people you see coming to Jamaica here, they're coming to smoke some good ganja and take a swim in the sea. We really need to open up the market for these things. We need to get the Chinese who know about the thing, how to make the sale for the yachts. The yachts are coming in here. Grenadians need to get themselves into this business because it's ganja that's making the sale for the yacht. No cotton could make sail to stay on the sea. We need to get ourselves involved in taking marijuana and make cannasol, medication for the eyes, to make soap, to make cream. We need to put industries in the country. And it's marijuana that go and put the industries here. Grenada don't even have a sweetie factory. We become a consuming nation. Marijuana could elevate us. I give thanks again to Sister Sandra and all Ms. Ferguson and all our co-workers and all the delegates. And even we must remember we have a very important lady here with us. We have Desmond Charter's sister here with us. You know, Desmond Charter is a burden who is in Ethiopia right now, but is a burden that struggles with us, an elder. So I must say that we have a sister here with us. And we give thanks to see that she's making a good contribution towards the Rases when concerning marijuana. O Haile Selassie, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who had said thy glory above the heavens, out of the mouth of babes and suckling hast thou ordained strength, that thou might still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider the heavens, the works of thy finger, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man thou hast visited him? For thou hast given him dominion over the works of thy hand, thou hast put all things under his feet, all beasts, sheep, oxen, the birds of the air, the fishes of the sea, and whatsoever passes through the path of the sea. O Haile Selassie, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Give thanks. Rastafari live. last thing I want to say is that there was a revolution in Grenada, and the Rastas was in the revolution. And also had a dialogue with the deceased Prime Minister, the Honorable Brother Bishop, Comrade Morris. And Comrade Morris called the Rastas at his home, and we sit down and we discuss the marijuana. And he said, Prince Nanan, from today, you and all your brothers and sisters will be able to grow, everybody will be able to grow 14 ganja tree. And that was a great settlement, and we went home rejoicing. And a couple of weeks after, certain radicals say, Prince Nanan, one spliff is too much, and start prosecuting the Rastas over marijuana and put us in Hopeville. I pray this time that the Rastas get some benefit. Give thanks. Aye.
And I will now like to welcome to the podium our next and final panelist, Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis.
An educator. All my life I have been concerned about the young people of our nation, who we should be grooming to become our future leaders. The child and young woman growing up in Grenada, I knew nothing about marijuana. When I went to Mona, Jamaica in 1961, is when I started hearing about it. On the campus, we were exposed to Rastafarians, some of whom were very close to our lecturers and visited the campus regularly. And on weekends at our student union, we danced to the music of the Rastafarians and the great Byron Lee, starting off with the ska, other types of music, and eventually what we know today as reggae. Marijuana was no big thing then. Up to now, I know very little about marijuana, but I have always been opposed to legalizing this substance. And the reason, when I experienced one of my Form 6 students at the Grenada Boys Secondary School, whom we were grooming to become our next island star. Very intelligent, very well-groomed young man, and first day in Form 6, fell out and dropped out of school because he started using marijuana and fell by the wayside. I saw quite a few other students, boys complete school, and then they too fell by the wayside. And even one of my girls at Anglican High School, after she left school, she almost became like a pagan because of her influence with marijuana. I have always felt that the people who were pushing for the legalization of marijuana were only after their own personal gain, what they could get out of it, either monetary or they had lands and they could grow it and sell it. However, I began to think again about marijuana. In this island, Grenada, we always do things upside down. What we should do first, we do it last. First of all, we must have discussions and conversations in every corner of our island to inform our people about marijuana, what it is, what are its benefits, and what are its dangers. Both the young and the old need information and education. My younger daughter, Kadeen, introduced me to a good friend of hers, Mr. Williams, Taisha Williams, and I think he was here today. From conversing with him, I realized there is a lot that we do not know about marijuana. And we should use people like him who have all the information to inform and educate the rest of us. First of all, we need to know the country where marijuana has been legalized. What have they benefited from it? What have been its ups and its downs? Are these countries better off? Have they improved? Or are they worse? Finally, somewhere in the report, I read this quotation. I read this, and I quote, "Traditionally, Caribbean citizens have promoted the use of medicinal properties of marijuana, and this was confirmed by scientific evidence. I grew up with a lot of older people, 8 people around me. Family, grandparents, both from my father and mother's side, and I never heard them speak about marijuana. Not even my parents, my aunts, my uncles. We used a lot of herbs and bush for tea, all types of tea. And even when we were sick, they would use all their herbs. I would like to ask that we educate and inform our people and discuss with them all there is to let them know about marijuana before we talk about legalizing. People must know what marijuana is, the good of it, and perhaps what is bad for it. And I would like to ask you all, please, to leave politics completely out of this discussion. Thank you very much.
And as I showed the eye, it is our bond sacrament in our tabernacle. It is like how the Christians have the bread and the wine to represent Lord Jesus. The Rastaman have his kuchi and his ganja to represent that said situation, but I call it sacramental. So we pray that marijuana will get a sacramental vibration in this nation, that the Rastas will be no more persecuted, because 13 tabernacle has been destroyed in Grenada. 13 tabernacle has been destroyed by the police, by the SSU, over the said marijuana issue. They visit the Rasta tabernacle, beat the priests, beat the followers, beat, and then destroy the tabernacles. So 13 of our tabernacle has been destroyed. I pray that this inhuman situation has become to abolishment in these hours. Give thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from members, please?
My name is Cheryl Antoine, and I want to ask the question, why marijuana is being spoken about as a drug. Marijuana only becomes a drug when it is used by the medical people into medication or whatever, but in the true sense, it's a herb because it's a tree. So I don't know why, you know, it's referred to like a drug as towards the, you know, the drugs. The next question I want to ask is that I heard Mr. The police officer, what's his name again? Yes, Brother Clarkson. I'm very familiar with him because he play a lot of music for me and write music for me. He was saying that because of America, right? The police in Grenada had to take a stand, right? Because of America business. When Mr. Clarkson was wearing the uniform of England, so something was wrong already. Because you cannot be wearing English uniform and protecting America. And then what I want to find out is that what will Grenada getting, right? How much money, what it is we was really getting by protecting America business. I don't hear that part come. All what I'm hearing is abuse of young people. And I'd like to make another statement to say that marijuana don't make people get mad. When you look at the community, I live in a community where I just move up and down. And people in that community, Rastafarians, are very private people when, if they want to smoke a spliff, but they're seeing men on the street, children coming out to school, and they have their bottle by the road drinking rum and smoking tobacco. So, tobacco is a herb. Rum comes from the cane, which we all know, and it's legal. But a herb that, you know, that people will use for medication purposes and other purposes, you saying to the police that it is a drug, so the police must go and, you know, when I talk about that, I just really feel it, because I have a son who's been in prison for all his long years. All his time, just because he chose maybe to grow marijuana and brutalized by the police. And all that time is America telling the police to brutalize our citizens. I think we better think. I think we better think. And I think when Grenada and Grenadians is ready to go into the planting of marijuana, that the community that been beaten and all of that should be given the opportunity to produce, because we have youths from Grenada here going to Canada and plant cannabis to make Canada rich, and yet still you saying they cannot plant in their own country, you know. So,
right,
and so I'm wrapping up now. So I'm saying that we need to think about it, because I think that this opportunity is an opportunity for Rastafarians now to make our country rich. Rastafarian, we could make our country rich because we know how to plant and we know what to do. So we don't need the man up there in Europe or Africa or America to come here and tell us how to cultivate. We're going to do it ourselves and make our country rich. Thank you.
In relation to questions which were posed about the police interacting with the DEA, I'm afraid that the commissioner unfortunately had to leave.
You know, I sat at the back and I listened.
Sorry, could I hear your name, please?
Yeah, the name is Ritchie Oliver.
Thank you.
I sat at the back there and I listened, and my phone was inundated with text messages and calls. And I will ask the hard question here this afternoon. We speak in glowing terms, and I'm not doubting that there is some benefit to come out of the marijuana plant. Indeed. And I think there are benefits. But I want to look at it holistically. Are we, as much as we are preaching the legislation and we would like to legalize certain portions of marijuana, are we ready in the OECD in particular and in the Caribbean and I bring it right here at home in Grenada. Are we ready for that, really? And I ask that in the context, we know that there are persons who can smoke 100 spliff and they are good. And there are persons who would only smoke one and they are not good. Are we ready? Oh yes, and that happens too. Are we ready? Do we have the facilities here in Grenada home? Do we have the expertise at home? Do we have the facilities and expertise to take care of those who cannot deal with it? They tried to use it on 1 or 2 occasions and it did not treat them well. We would not like to get into the different, how should I say it, the different things that would happen to them. Most of us here, let us not fool ourselves. We know exactly what happens. So I'm asking the hard question here this afternoon. As much as we would like to do what we say we would like to do, are we ready? Structure-wise, and are we ready? Do we have the expertise to help coach or help to psychologically the persons who might be affected to deal with the problems that would arrive out of that? Thank you.
Again, I have to say that having regard to the remit of this panel, this really is a question which falls under the umbrella of the earlier panel today, which was dealing with health, children, youth, and other social considerations. We, on our panel here, we do not have the expertise to answer that question. So we will certainly table it. Thank you.
Representing the House of the Nabingi again. Yeah, what the brother said, they might be looking true. People make statements that look true but not true. The law on marijuana is destroying more of our citizens than if it is legalized right now. The law they have presently, what is established at this moment, is causing more harm mentally, physically, financially, any way you want to put it. Domestically, is destroying the people more. The study on marijuana has proven that mental disability is 0%. 0%. So is the stress from places like America and England, like what she was just explaining, when America indulges itself in wrongdoing and spit it out on we've been stressed out. This is what causing the mental disabilities, not marijuana. Let's don't blame marijuana and let's go forward with the project. The project is blessed and it's good. Thank you.
Give thanks. Good evening once again. Ras Nang from the House of the Nabingi. What I really have to say now is that marijuana has been around so long, so many years. We can't even count years marijuana been around. And look to today, we have a crop we call the sauce-up crop, right? Going on with sauce-up. And sauce-up in Grenada is being exported all over the world. And it is known as one of the #1 main cancer element or whatsoever we call it, healing product, right? No study have done on sauce-up in Grenada and probably other countries much. Probably they just do a study based on the cancer and different things like that to prove that sauce-up so good for cancer and all them things. But we have hundreds of farmers planting thousands upon thousands of sauce-up trees. Yeah? This is a crop that people looking to create a serious investment in. But marijuana been around so long, and up to now, Grenada or the government of Grenada can't even set up a base, where we could do a study based on marijuana. And Rastas in Grenada have been pleading so long for the legalization of marijuana, or for the government to look into legalizing marijuana or decriminalizing marijuana. So the question I'm asking, why is this study taking so long so that the government could put in place certain regulations that marijuana could be legal in Grenada? You know, marijuana, and next thing again I have to say, I have a brethren, a Rasta brethren who grew up here in Grenada, and he now come from university in Canada, who just done a study on marijuana, the whole production of marijuana from the seed go right up to the plant, to the distribution and all them things there. And he now finished with his degree and diploma and all them things there. So we have people, not to say we don't have people, and not only one person we got many people out there who doing studies based on marijuana. So we need to try to set up some things that even people in Grenada could be innovated, and even get places that we could study here to bring this thing forward, because the government delaying with this thing too much, you know what I mean? So we need to fasten up the production, and while we say that we are ready, we might be looking scrawny and like we don't know what's going on, or we don't know how to set up our production and all them things, but we are ready. Just as any other businessman is ready, just so the Rasis and other people dealing with marijuana are ready to take this into, you know, a full initiative. So give thanks.
Because it costs $120 per man to keep them up there per day, in all the resources and everything to support a prisoner up there. So from the legal standpoint, looking at the overcrowding of the prison and the court systems that we have as well. The part of the mental capacities of persons and psychological breakdowns and different things, I think we need support for that regardless of marijuana or not. We have incidences of bipolar, you know, manic depressive. We have a lot of incidences of those sort of things, and we give no credence to mental health. But if you understand, and this comes from knowledge from the lady who was the principal, she's right. It is knowledge that we need, because we will look, if we understood what happened during the Cartagena affair, we'd realize the emphasis was on cocaine, not on marijuana. Marijuana just got shuffled in there as part of the drug culture that they spoke of. The second thing is, we also need to know, she calls for ongoing research. She's so very right. We need ongoing research of what's going on in the world and where we sit with that. Because this big thought of it being a big bucks industry does not really fly in the places that they were supposed to be happening in. However, the decriminalization is being pushed forward in several countries and on a global platform as well. We want to look at that. We also want to make sure that we understand what our market possibilities if we engage. We tend to be too big and expect not to fail instead of creeping to get there with niche products, as we were talking about. I sent to the persons on the Zoom link a link to Amazon, just putting in the search bar hemp products. And it's amazing the number of things that you can get in there. That's the variety of the market that we can best handle in small little doses. And we can follow the things like the chocolate factories, how many of them we've had, and how niche they were, and how successful they are, because our environment will never be able to take that. We will also have to look at legal ramifications on the environmental interest as well, environmental degradation as well. But most of all, I want to go back to Ritchie and what he said about the communities. I am accustomed seeing more men from River Road, Darbo, Coffee Bowl. The names are very distinct where they come from, when they're in the prison. St. David's, they're very distinct. And so we want to look at the fact, and I'm also aware and understanding by people that I know, that it happens in Lansapine. But we get no mention of these people at all. They don't get held, you know? So we want a just, equitable system for something that could be perhaps profitable. Instead of the witch hunt, look to find knowledge. Where can we benefit?
I'm Empress Mutaro from the Nabingi House and also a member of the Rastafari Organization for Centralization. And I'm asking that question to Mr. Maitland. He said that Grenada is one of the last countries to have this type of forum. I want to know why we as Grenadians should be the last, you know? Is it that we are get the most brutalization, or is it that we cannot grow our hub freely? Or is it that the government don't give us the time to recognize us as Rasta towards the hub? So I just want to ask Mr. Maitland if he could answer this question for us, please. We want to know why we should be the last, when we should be the first. Bless up.
Yeah, legislation or political commitment, because for instance, in the case of Barbados, they haven't yet passed legislation, but they've given a political commitment to the society next month. And I really don't have any good reason except that there isn't sufficient political will. As in, I get the impression that by and large, the other governments have felt the mood of their population, of their constituents, have felt that the world has shifted and is continuing to shift, and that they would just get behind as archaeological politicians if they don't go with the flow. And for many people, this is a political issue. It is a politically important issue, and so they have looked at the world trend and listened to their populations and moved forward, whereas Grenadian politicians, I think, for whatever reason, have not come to a similar realization, or perhaps it is in combination with the fact that we have a quite powerful church lobby here, which is also very politically active, perhaps in a sense that other countries don't. So those are the two things I can really offer as an explanation. It would be best for politicians to answer that.
This is the end of the plenary session, so I bow gratefully to the chair here. Thank you.
I think this has been a great session. This has been a movement. Think of it years ago where you would not dare to have a forum of this nature to discuss this issue. And this is notwithstanding some persons may feel that, you know, they didn't get to hear what they wanted to. But I think having brought this thing to a discussion of this nature, a discourse of this nature, sponsored by what I call the policy making arms within the region, is a good move. And in this last session, I listened to people who have been on different sides. Mr. Clarkson, Commissioner Clarkson, brought a perspective of how this thing emerged in latter years within a framework of policing. It was how it was pushed. Ras Nang, it is a pleasure to meet you. I heard of you, and I'm very touched by the testimony you gave about your experience, first of all, of a promise that was made to you at the highest level, and then at the same time how you suffered incarceration. I think the presentation by our legal luminary, Ritchie, addressed this issue of human rights. Now, laws are made and laws are changed. It is driven by how society progresses and when society decides that existing laws can no longer meet its needs. Now, I have heard Ras Nang with my ears, and I would say with my own good two ears, refer to an accommodation. I use the term we're looking for to decriminalize. And he's saying we need to have a discussion as to how we should proceed. And I think this is a very responsible statement. It does not represent anger, but it is a wish to bring the process of criminalizing the use of marijuana to a standstill. There are opportunities and there are concerns. Educator Mrs. Mason, she brought a perspective of her experience in education. Now, these are real. These are not make-believe. These are real. And in any society, you should not impose the will of a stronger set on the wishes of anyone. This thing calls for discussion and discourse as we go forward. It is not about how much money you would make, how much money you would not make, but we recognize that within the present construct, there is a problem. And the problem is a whole generation, a generation, 2 generations probably, has been criminalized. And we have been losing our young men and women to the prison. I don't know how much we have lost to the use of marijuana, but we have sent them to a school where they came out not what they went in as, but they came out totally tutored for a different occupation. At this stage, it is not my wish to continue, but I would like to thank those who sponsored this session for bringing this matter into the public so that we can have a discussion of all the stakeholders who are brave enough, and I use the word brave enough, within this space to meet and have a frank discussion as to the issues, the challenges, and some of the fears that we face going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for being here, and I thank you for listening